Hey everybody, welcome to my 100th video. Zombies, huh? American Ojisan's got your back. Hey folks, American Ojisan here, and I love zombies. I love doing zombie artwork. I've done a lot of traditional artwork with acrylics. I kind of take my acrylic pours and turn them into a zombie. You can check out those videos on my art channel. I also do a lot of digital work, creating zombies, pulling them out of my head, putting them on the screen for you. As always, you can check out my work on deviantart.com/AmericanOjisan. It is only 2 days till Halloween. I felt like doing another zombie for you today. It's been a while, so let's get started.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Fellow horror art lovers, we're going to do a zombie today. It's been a while since I've done a zombie. Let's get a little creepy, copyright-free music going in the background. Hopefully no commercials will bust into the middle of that, but you never know. YouTube can be so aggravating sometimes. Excuse me while I set this up a little bit. Got to plug in the old trusty XP pen tablet here so we can get started. Make sure we're good. Alright. So, hope everybody's doing good. Not going to talk a whole lot about my techniques and my brushes and my methods and all that today. We're just going to get to it. Maybe talk about some zombie movies or something to that effect. And as always, I'll probably start playing in the clouds a little bit, and we're going to carve a nice creepy zombie out of that. So I can remember when I was young, the drive-in theater, we used to have a drive-in here in this town. They were showing Dawn of the Dead, and kind of showing my age a little bit. Dawn of the Dead, you know, late 70s, early 80s, I can't remember exactly the time frame. Movie. And if you've never seen the original Dawn of the Dead, not the new one with Ving Rhames and all those people in it, I'm talking the old George A. Romero, Tom Savini doing the special effects Dawn of the Dead. Well, that movie kind of changed everything for everybody, because all of a sudden kind of brought this new level of gore and this new expectation of what a zombie movie was supposed to be about. George Romero did the original Night of the Living Dead, which is the pretty much the godfather of what a zombie is, as far as movies go. There were a couple of old ones back in the 50s and 60s, but they were more kind of just campy, silly horror movies than actual zombie movies that we would think of being zombies today. So your Walking Dead type zombies, those are all George A. Romero zombies. There's been a few other variations that are pretty cool. I like the 28 Days Later type zombies are pretty cool, but the old classic George Romero zombies, those are my favorite, because what they kind of represent is just that slow moving, inevitable death coming towards you. And it's kind of a you know, like a metaphor for life. You you're always got death creeping up on you. And sooner or later, it's going to bust down your door and be there on you. It's something we all have to face, right? But that's kind of what the George Romero zombies represent to me. Now the 28 Days Later zombies, that's kind of a fast moving, run at you, rip your guts out. Those almost to me represent some kind of apocalyptic warfare. I think those, kind of the message behind those is more of a, it's like I said, like a warfare or just some kind of real horrible human tragedy, as were your traditional Walking Dead George Romero zombies. Just to me are the scariest because it represents what we all have to face, and that's that sooner or later we're gonna die. Alright, all of us are gonna die, and that's what those kind of mean to me. So back to Dawn of the Dead. I was too young to go watch that when it came out, or I don't know if it's when it came out, but when it came to this town, my mom absolutely, for the right reasons, was not going to go let me watch that movie. I was kind of a weird kid, and I liked that kind of stuff, but it scared the crap out of me. Like, everything scared me back then, but I kind of liked it. Like, I couldn't even hang out in a room in the daytime by myself a lot of times. I was that much of a scaredy cat when I was a kid, but for whatever reason, Dawn of the Dead, just hearing people that had seen it describe it and come back and tell the tales of the movie, like I already had the whole movie built up in my imagination before I finally got to see it. And when I finally did see it, it did not disappoint. It was really good. And then when I was a teenager, Day of the Dead came out, and that ended up being one of my favorite movies. And there's a scene in there where the zombies catch this soldier, and they're slowly pulling his head off. And I'm not sure exactly how they, the visuals were one thing, right? But how the scream that came out of that guy's mouth is like, it has always stuck with me as just one of the worst sounds I've ever heard in a horror movie or anywhere. And that's always kind of been the way it is with me. It's something weird, something odd that'll stick with me. It's not all the overt gore and the stuff like that that's going on. It's some weird scream or some one strange look or something like that. Well, it's not a zombie movie, but the very first Sleepaway Camp movie, the guy that made that, I mean, you can look at it one of two ways. That movie was either super hokey and stupid, or he was a genius by making it that way, because it had this unreal feeling about it. And then when these scenes of people getting killed, or when the cook got his face boiled off and stuff like that, when that hits, it hits a lot harder, because it's like, you know, it went from being this campy, silly, almost stupid movie to all of a sudden he's throwing this visual up in your face, and the sounds that are just disturbing, and they stick with you. So it's always something like that. But the final scene of that, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but the final scene of Sleepaway Camp, if you've never watched it, go watch it. And just know that it's you're going to roll your eyes a little bit, but it will quickly punch you in the stomach, especially the ending. So the very ending scene of that movie, the look on the killer's face, just the way it ended, the way it freezed and kind of locked you into that moment there, that screwed me up bad. I was at a friend's house and there was a bunch of us over, and these were kind of like, I somehow ended up in one of these kind of sleepover situations where I was I don't know if you can relate to this, kind of out of my league. Like some of the cooler guys finally well, you know, high school, some of the more popular guys wanted to start hanging out with me a little bit. So I go to their house and we watch this stupid movie, and it scared the dog crap out of me. And I know it scared all the rest of them too, but none of us could let on, right? Like nobody wanted to act like it bothered them at all, like, you know, that. But we were all laying there in the dark after it was over, trying to go to sleep, and you could tell it screwed us all up. So the one thing, like, I guess about that is I didn't really blend in with those guys, so that was kind of the one and only thing there, one and only time that I kind of hung out with them for like a weekend, because I just didn't like the way things were, and I've always kind of been a loner, and my true buddies, we were always together, and for whatever reason, and this was kind of before I met my true friends, the ones that I ended up staying with. And high school's kind of a weird thing, you know, when you're a kid from Arkansas trying to exist in California. You're really a fish out of water, so you kind of cling to whoever you can get close to. But then after a while, I made my own way. I just got determined that I was just going to be myself, and then my true friends were there and they stuck with me. So another one of my favorite zombie movies, and I don't know if you can really call it a zombie movie, but another horror movie that kind of changed everything for me, was The Evil Dead 2. Now, I don't know if you've ever watched any of the Evil Dead movies with Ash, or and the new remake was pretty good. I mean, it was good, but it definitely did not have the same kind of feeling like the old Evil Dead 2. And I'll be honest with you, like Army of Darkness, I liked, but I kind of was let down by it at the same time. Because it got just kind of way too out there for me. But anytime I can see Ash in a movie, I'll watch it. Even the, I think it was Sci-Fi, had the Bruce Campbell movies, where it was actually Bruce Campbell and everybody thought he was the character Ash, and then he had to fight some Deadites once again. I really like that too. But so Evil Dead 2, my uncle worked at a video store, and you millennials, nobody knows what a video store is, but my uncle worked at a video store, and he brought home the Evil Dead 2. It was just like kind of in a pile of videos he'd brought home, and so I decided to watch it. And I guess the really good thing for me was I had zero idea of what I was fixing to watch, and I think that's the best way to watch that thing. I really did not know what I was about to see, and I watched it all alone at my house, and it really blew me away. You almost feel triumphant when it's over that you survived it. Like you and Ash survived this adventure together. And then you have to run out and show everybody else what you just watched. So that's what I did. The next thing I knew, I was showing everybody I could this Evil Dead 2 movie. And I still, to this day, 30 years later, when my kids come over, their friends come over, I have to like just shove it in their face and like, you gotta watch this movie. And then they're usually blown away by it. Some people don't get it, some people do. I don't know if there's any movies out there that you guys have watched that have just kind of shaped your artwork or kind of shaped you as a person, but I'd be interested to know. Just leave me a comment down in the bottom. I like to just talk about that kind of stuff. But so kind of going way back to the whole Dawn of the Dead thing. When I was a kid, like I said, for the right reasons, I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of this stuff. And then, but I would hear other people talk about it. So the entire time I hear them talking about it, I'm forming this whole movie in my head. Like, I've got all these scenes that I've imagined for years and years. And then when I finally got old enough and actually saw the movie, sometimes, like with Dawn of the Dead, it lived up to it, and sometimes it didn't. Like, my imagination was way harsher than what they actually put on the screen. A funny story is when my kids were young, one time we were going all the way up to Minnesota to visit my in-laws. And it was back in the day, and we had this whole DVD with it was like 2 DVD players and 2 screens. You hooked it up to the back seat, and the kids kind of watched it back there, and then we were playing the sound through the car stereo. But it was the first Harry Potter movie, and I don't even remember what that one's called, the Sorcerer's Stone, something like that. But they watched that movie. It's like a 15-16 hour drive from here to there, and they watched that movie like 5 or 6 times in a row. And they were young. It's what young kids do. So I heard that movie. Like, I couldn't see it, but I heard it like 10 times, it seemed like, before I finally saw the movie. And kind of the same thing. What I heard and what I imagined was not even close. The movie wasn't even close to living up what I had imagined was going on. So sometimes it may actually be better to leave it to your imagination. And I think that's what some of the great horror movies do, is they let you imagine it. I think that was the secret to the Blair Witch, is you imagined what was happening. You didn't know, but you just imagined what was going on. And always, I think that ends up being far worse than anything that they can put on the screen. The later George Romero kind of zombie movies, where he did Land of the Dead and all that stuff, they kind of started falling apart for me a little bit. I mean, there were some cool concepts, and he was, he had a lot of themes hidden in the way he did those. But I just did not enjoy them as much as the old stuff. So that's just me. Some people probably really loved him and would watch anything he ever made. And I don't know if you've ever, if you know who George A. Romero is. I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably do. But he is, it's funny because he is like the Stan Lee of horror and zombie movies and artwork. And the funny thing is, like, he and Stan Lee looked a whole lot alike. If I you could almost put like a picture of either one of them up and make some kind of little meme about the other one, and most people would buy it because they looked a whole lot alike. And both of those guys were kind of my heroes on horror movies and comic books, and so it's kind of just weird that they looked alike. And again, like I said, I'm not really talking about my tablet or my technique or what I'm doing here. We're just kind of going to draw this thing out today. And even what's going on here in the picture, I don't even really want to talk about it. I just kind of want you to look at it, and you can decide for yourself what you think is going on in this picture. We'll give it some cool name when we post it. Most of the highest praise and most love I've got on DeviantArt has been from these zombie pictures. You know, there's just kind of a huge following for anything zombie related, and for whatever reason, folks just really dig this stuff, and I'm glad, because I dig it too. Sometimes I have to kind of watch what I draw at certain times, because my granddaughter Kira, I know she's watching this video. Kira. My granddaughter Kira like watches everything I do and post, and she wants to draw, and she's trying to draw like me, so I have to kind of be careful sometimes. I don't want to go too overboard, and I know this one looks pretty gruesome, but believe me, I'm holding back quite a bit on this thing. And I don't, you know, I've been trying to get the YouTube channel to take off a little bit, but I don't want to just beat my friends and family over the head with this thing either, you know. So while I do try to promote it on Facebook and whatnot, sometimes I feel like I post too much stuff on Facebook. And I do have a separate account for American Ojisan than I do my regular account. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. So, you know, when I send these notifications and stuff out, I don't take offense if folks do or do not check it out. It's I don't want anybody to feel obligated. But if you enjoy it, by all means, come and check it out, and you know, give me that nice like, and give me a sub If you know anybody that likes this kind of artwork, just kind of tell them about it. That's all I ask. And I'll do my best to entertain you and maybe show you a little bit of cool artwork. And hopefully this background music that I found here is actually copyright free, and some a-hole doesn't come and try to claim my video here, because I've had that happen before. YouTube's getting pretty cutthroat, man. It's there's whole companies that their whole job is just to scour YouTube looking for anything that they can claim that somebody else did, because there might be 2 seconds of a song in it, or somebody whistled a tune or something to that effect. It's absolutely ridiculous. But it is YouTube's platform. It is their site. They are free to run it how they see fit. The only problem I see is that eventually somebody will come along and do it better if they don't get it fixed. You know, and if I was YouTube, that's what I would be worried about. Maybe somebody will come along and make a better and platform for folks to post their stuff on, something where they don't have to worry as much about, you know, like I said, somebody putting in a copyright claim and taking their whole video that they've worked so hard on producing. Now, I will tell you, it is absolutely not right to go out there and just take other people's stuff and use it without their permission. And that's kind of what led to all this. And I get that part of it too. And I'm guilty. I love watching reactors react to things, and that's, I don't know why, but it just, I really love it. Especially like when they react to old music and stuff. Stuff I used to listen to or still listen to. I love watching young people react to like Pink Floyd and things like that. But I don't agree with just creating your whole channel out of watching somebody else's art, you know. It's cool to react to it, and I do like that, but I do think at a certain point some of these folks are just flat ass playing somebody else's videos and getting paid for it. And that's not right. So somewhere, somehow, in the middle of all this, there's a reasonable compromise. And that's what we gotta find. Some kind of a reasonable compromise. And I think that's what the world is missing right now. It's just people being reasonable. It's always super left or super right, super up or super down. We just need some common sense. The world does not have to radically change one way or the other every other year. So here somehow I started the zombie painting and ended up on some kind of big political rant, and I apologize. It just happened. So back to zombies. Some of these newer zombie movies I haven't really checked out, and speaking of The Walking Dead, I got to about season 3. I may have started season 4, before I tapped out of that one. Because I just kind of felt like, I don't know, like they were just kind of, I guess the pacing of it, the story pacing just kind of started getting to me. You know, while I do think it's good that they didn't stay exactly with the comics, because then things would be too predictable. But they did change a lot of the story from the comics. And I was lucky enough that I did read the comics before I saw the show. And the comics were really, really good. But that whole thing kind of went crazy too. Like, man, yeah, have you tried to look into buying some of those old Walking Dead comics now? My gosh. People want an arm and a leg for those things. When I collect comics, kind of really makes me mad when things jump up in price like that, because it's just people taking advantage of other folks. I do have a local place here, and they're really good. If I can ever catch them open is the biggest problem, because for whatever reason they are rarely open. But basically they will match anybody's price and then cut it in half. You know, so I can go down and they will look up the comic that I have in my hand online, see what everybody else is selling it for, and then cut that price in half. And you can't beat that. So we're getting close to the end here. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm going for. I'm trying to not make these videos super long, but I don't want to take away from the art either by rushing it. But usually for me, on a typical painting or drawing, about an hour tops. This is about as long as I go with them. And when I'm done, I'm done. You know, I don't go back and obsess over them. I just put my pen down and I'm done. So once I finish this and I call it good and I turn this video off, I am done with this thing. And I'll post it and it'll live online for the rest of its time. And I try not to ever go back and try to fix these things, because you always find something that you missed, something that you're like, oh, I wish I'd have done this, or I wish I'd have done that. And I just kind of save that for the next one, right? Let's see, we're pretty close here, and this is just kind of a torso, ripped apart zombie. You can interpret it however you want to. This guy is or girl, I'm not sure what it is. This zombie has been through a lot, and suffering pretty bad, it looks like. And you can see when I do these type of paintings, I use a lot of texture brushes. And then I go back and carve out the things I want to carve out. But it's more than just slapping some texture brushes down on a piece of paper. Anybody that thinks that they can do that, by all means, just go for it and let me see your art. Just remember, art is not about skill or how well you can draw a line. It's about what you're trying to express and how you're feeling that day. If you'll stick with that, this will be a good thing and be fun. Don't put pressure on yourself that every line has to be perfect, and don't let anybody else judge your art based on, lines and hues and values. And the more you do it, the more what you were trying to express will come out. So we're going to finish this thing up. Going to adjust it out, and we'll get her posted. So down in the comments, kind of tell me about your favorite zombie movies or your favorite horror movies, things that kind of changed you. And then let me know if you like this type of video. Trying to do a little short mini skit at the beginning of these things, just to make it more interesting. And that was an airsoft gun, by the way. That was not a real gun. I do have some real guns, but I would not show those in a YouTube video because YouTube doesn't like it, and like I said before, it's their channel, right? So it's their site. We will try to be agreeable with them best we can. At some point, I like that one. At some point, you have to kind of let go of just being angry about things all the time. I've seen so many people ranting and raving about YouTube on here. It's like, well, do something else then, Usually when folks are ranting and raving like that, it's because they can't do anything else. And then I think they figure that if they rant and rave enough that things will change back to the way they wanted them to be, where they could take advantage of it. And I don't think that YouTube's very keen on caving into those type of things. So and I do think there's a few of the big time guys on here that are bitching about things that they have no business bitching about. And it's just kind of, like I said, so they can take advantage of the situation. But it kind of hurts the small guys like me. I've had maybe 5 or 6 videos ever get more than 100 views. And I've got 57 subscribers at this point, and I love each and every one of y'all, and I appreciate you guys for watching. But even I get hit with like copyright strikes and stuff like that. It's like, I think I got hit on one, the epic peanut butter and jelly sandwich thing. I got hit with that one because I had some music from Conan the Barbarian in there, or whatever classical piece that is. I can't remember. It's just like, really, like. And it was just some company. Like I said, it wasn't, it wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger or anybody associated with the movie. It was just some company that's their whole job, is to go out there and find any clips of any music that they have the rights to and take it away, But I get it. I screwed up. And I didn't really screw up. I kind of knew it was going to happen when I did it. I just did it anyway because I really wanted to make that video, and I really wanted to use that song because I thought it fit good. So I wasn't worried about any kind of money. There's no money to make in a video that's been viewed, I think, a dozen times. So it was worth it to me. I knew I was going to catch one, and I just did it anyway. Alright, we're going to sign this puppy, and I'll have it up on DeviantArt. And just kind of sitting here thinking about it, we're calling this Bob the Zombie. And Bob the Zombie will be up on DeviantArt and my Instagram. And appreciate you guys sticking with me and watching. I will try to get better and better at these videos as we go. Hope you enjoyed it. Until the next video, Ojisan out.